everyone, this is Teresa Mancarini of Greenfield Belser. I'm the media manager here and will be helping to moderate our discussion today. Welcome to the second webinar in our brand thinking series. Today we're going to cover engaging content, the lasting power of persuasive content online. As we get ready to start, please make sure that your phone is muted. This will prevent any background noises and ensure that everyone can hear the full presentation. During the presentation, we're going to allow you to please chat any questions you may have to our panelists using the GoToMeeting chat window. We'll also hold questions at the end, and we're sure that we're going to have plenty of time to address as many as possible. Lastly, we encourage you to join us via social media during the presentation, and we're going to be tweeting from our GBLTD handle using the hashtag GBWebinar. I hope you'll join our conversation. Let me introduce our speaker today. Joe Walsh is a Principal and Creative Director with Greenfield Belser, working with marketing challenge clients of all shapes and sizes inside the professional services sector and out. So Joe, I'm going to pass it on to you, and let's get started on engaging content.
Great. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. Looks like we have a good topic here because we have a big group assembled virtually. I don't know if any of you are Woody Allen fans. He's my favorite film star and filmmaker. He has this, one of the classics I like is Take the Money and Run. And in it, he's a hapless, an inadvertent bank robber, and he winds up in a high security penitentiary for the failed bank robbery, and then gets in trouble with the warden, and goes into solitary confinement, and for extra added punishment, the warden sends a insurance salesman in to talk to him for 24 hours straight, just literally chew his ear off. And it's the warden's version of bored straight instead of scared straight. And the point is that you know, content can be terribly boring, and it's certainly, as we'll see, all the rage. But what we're trying to do here is make engaging content, give you ideas for engaging content that your audiences will want to do time with. So that's the program. We're here to give you ideas. We've seen a lot. We're going to show you lots of examples from clients across the consulting, accounting, and legal professions, and some just outside that edge, but all of them doing knowledge marketing. So as Teresa said, this is an ongoing program. If you like it, you're also going to like some of the upcoming programs. We did one 6 weeks ago on going mobile, and if you are interested in that subject and weren't on the last webinar with us, you can go on our site and download that content. Hopefully you'll find it engaging. So our program today is this phrase, you know, content marketing. You've heard content is king. It's all the rage. One pundit called it the new black in marketing, and you know, we have stats to support that. This is from the Content Marketing Institute. Not sure if you knew there was such a thing, but B2B marketers like you say that in the next 12 months, they're likely to either increase, half of them, or another 11% significantly increase the amount of time, energy, and budget they're going to invest in content marketing. And I think we're all familiar with what types of you know, distribution techniques will be involved. It's things like articles and blogs and e-newsletters and case studies and you know, in-person events, webinars like this one, videos, so on and so forth. So it's clearly, you know, the phrase content marketing is you know, the new catchphrase, ironically, in the professional service world, the world that most of us spend all our time in. You know, it is not new. It's old school. I mean, this is the McKinsey Quarterly, and it's 30-some years old now. I mean, what's new is it's no longer a printed publication solely, but it's distributed electronically and through all the other social channels. You know, so it's a staple of ours. We sell people expertise, right? And on the client side of this, on the audience side of this, our own research, most recently updated at the end of 2010 in this digital marketing poll of, you know, C-suite buyers of professional services, you know, one thing they told us is yeah, we love to receive your content as long as it's substantive and the things they consider to be worthy of their attention are things like original research on topics that are important to me, the buyer, industry updates, summaries of case studies, invitations to seminars and events, legislative or regulatory alerts and updates, white papers, so on and so forth. So yes, there's an audience. Your content has a willing and able audience. One other question just to punctuate that point, we asked, have you gone on to a law firm or accounting firm or consulting firm website and looked up stuff on their resource center, like articles and white papers? And nearly 70% of them said yes. So the question isn't, does content marketing make sense? The question really is, with all of us doing it in spades, how do you get your content consumed? How do you get it paid attention to, and then have that attention paid off, by them actually, going through it and digesting it? And by the way, I think the stats, I never know who makes these numbers up, but they say that we're all on the receiving end of somewhere close to 3,000 marketing messages a day. Just think about that. It's in the car, it's at the ballpark, it's in your email box, the publications you read. So you are overwhelmed with content. So how can you be sure, given that circumstance, that what you're doing is going to, like we said, earn people's attention? This is a quote from David Ogilvy, the great ad man. He says, you can't bore people into buying your product or service. And the point is that a lot of the content in the professions, because it's dealing with, weighty stuff, heady stuff, is as dry as white toast. And it doesn't need to be. And in fact, it can't be when you're dealing with all this competition for people's attention. So you have this other quote unattributed. It says, everyone communicates, but few connect. We want to get you into that chosen few who do make those connections with these ideas today. So we'll start with a definition of content and, the blah, blah, blah thing. We've grown up, or some of us who are older have been educated to believe that content is the written word, right? And it's recorded in books and handed down generation after generation in that form. And we have some fun. Some of you have heard the phrase text heavy, and some of you have seen these two slides side by side. But on the left you have the Magna Carta, and on the right you have the typical, practice area web page. It could be a proposal page, it could be a brochure page, but it is separated at birth from the way things used to be done. I like to say, just within the legal field, a lot of the marketing that we're forced to do by our professionals is more like a brief than it is like an argument before a jury. But in any event, we're trying to move away from this type of content delivery to the modern age. And ironically, the more graphic delivery of content, and I don't mean that because there's a picture of a guy here, but this is Leonardo da Vinci's sketches, and he was famous for illustrating his thoughts as well as recording them. And, another big buzz phrase is information graphics these days, which help with SEO and such, but it's not a new science. This is I'm not fluent in French, but I think this says figurative chart in French, and what it illustrates is the march from Napoleon's march in 1812 over that brutal winter from Paris to Moscow, and the diminishing strength of his forces as they endured, that brutal Russian winter. So illustrative graphics, substantive information communicated, content communicated in ways other than words is not necessarily a new thing. So what we're advising you to do, very big picture here, is to think of content as a salad bar. My partner Berkey Belzer gets the credit for coming up with this metaphor. So you got your plate in the middle, and what we're used to doing whether it's a proposal or a PowerPoint or a seminar presentation, name that distribution network. What we're used to doing is taking a heaping helping of text and piling it on our plate, and what we're suggesting in this day and age is that there are other devices like tables and maps and charts and lists that can do as good a job, if not better, to communicate. And the fact is, in this day and age, you have scanners and not readers. Thanks to USA Today and other media channels, that's just the way we're used to consuming our content. This is especially important on the web. Not everybody likes content in the same way, but the stats say that it is 25% slower to read on the web or on your mobile device or an email because it hurts the eyes and it's on screen. The tracking studies also suggest that on something like a website, where your eyes go to first are to color, to shapes, to images, and very last to text. All right. So the trick is, the responsibility is for us marketers is how do you use color, shapes, images to convey substance, okay, and to earn and keep people's attention. And by the way, this isn't just about content online. These principles apply to any kind of communications, whether it's printed or digital. Okay, so we're looking for a balanced diet, and to put text in its place, if you will. And I'll give you an example here. We showed the McKinsey publications, the old school print versions of the McKinsey Quarterly. Now, of course, that's all done online, and this is a screen capture from last Thursday, and they're at the moment promoting supply chain thinking. It's from supply chain to supply circles, and if you click and view this feature, by the way, we had nothing to do with this site, we just love it, but in many ways. But if you click to view this feature, what do you see? So you got about 30 words. There's your little helping of text, but what dominates the page as you scroll through it are these information graphics that are not only handsome and well put together and courteous because they help people bide their time, but they're substantive. I can use this information to make decisions, to do my job, to inform my choices, to educate my people, so on and so forth. All right, so that's a good illustrative example of what we mean by a balanced diet. Now, there's other ways to engage. That's the fundamental takeaway for you is striking this balance in the way the content is delivered, away from the old school text to the new school information graphics. But there's other things you can do to engage, and here are the big 5 principles, and then we're going to go into some examples, almost tactic by tactic for you. But the big 5 are, engaging content is, it's relevant. Some of these are by the way, you're just shaking your head saying, come on, Joe, I know this stuff, but we're just reiterating what's obvious to a lot of us. So engaging content is relevant, useful, and timely. Okay? It's easy to get through and benefit-centric. We're going to show you what we mean by that. It's substantive and scannable. We started to touch on what we mean by that. It's story-based, and it's conversational, even if it isn't in person. And then it's packaged creatively, again, to help break through the clutter and earn people's attention in this mass of content that's vying for their eyeballs and earlobes. So here we go. We'll go one at a time. Relevant, useful, and timely. And we'll give you examples, and you can take notes but rest assured, you don't pull a muscle scribbling these things down. We'll put all this on our own website, and you can download this and see and hear this for yourself. But we'll start with Levine, Blasik, Block, and Boothby, a mouthful that they've contracted into a handle called LB3. This is a law firm and consulting firm that's based in D.C. They're novel in many ways, but mostly for their really laser focus. What they do is telecommunication contracts, almost exclusively, and they do it on a large scale for Fortune 500 companies around the world. What they do on their website and in their blog is they share what they've learned in doing these contracts over and over again, and they do it in a very engaging way. They allow you to dial up the insights by the phone pad, but what they really do here is share lessons with you about the process of negotiating with your provider, and they do it in a way that's fun. This one says standard clauses are like professions of love. If they aren't mutual, someone's going to get hurt. And down below, as you get into the meat of the communications, it says basically the provider gets the uranium mine and the user gets the shaft. So it is substance. It is opinions and experience being shared that they've learned by trial and error, but it has a personality. It engages. It draws you in eyeball-wise, and hopefully then gets you to read on as you go further and scroll down this page. So that's relevant, useful, and timely. Easy to get through and benefit-centric. What I'm going to use here as an example is a before and after, and the before is a typical service description, this one for products liability of an unnamed firm. And what you are met with are two things. Not only are you met with, in the red highlight here, a label. That's not a benefit. Products liability is like calling my craft beer beer. It is not a benefit. And then you're met with a wall of words. Okay. The courteous, polite thing to do, if you turn this same page on its here, and this is actually done for a plaintiff's firm, and they're very good at speaking in benefits. What they have is the label, effective products, but they have a benefit headline, holding manufacturers accountable for the quality of their products. As from a content perspective, you have positioned what you're doing here as a benefit. It isn't a feature. What they've also done that's really smart is they subdivided their text into subheadlines, which are also benefits. So they've taken the wall of words and made it easier to digest with simple graphic devices like color and subheadlines that are made bold or italic or what have you. And another example of that, here we have the practice page for intellectual property for the Boston-based law firm Choate Hall & Stewart, and they use that same technique, with the red subheads that carry benefits to the potential client. I'm sorry, I went back a page. The other thing you'll notice here is that under each subparagraph, my goodness, what do you have there? There's no more than 30 words. And in a couple of delightful circumstances, it's only a sentence. So brevity is key. Brevity doesn't mean light and airy. Brevity means I'm respectful of somebody's time and I'm making my point in a concise way. So one more example on features or labels versus benefits. This is the Society of Human Resource Management. This is a series of white papers that they have published through the years that are incredibly valuable to their audience. One of the things the research said, and these folks are slavish market researchers, one of the things that their audience said was, I don't know exactly, you produce so much content, I don't know what's for me. And some of that has to do with the way they describe what's going on here, like the human capital benchmark study is a label, again, or workplace forecast is a label. What does it help me do? So you just I'm going to leave the redesign part of this apart and just focus on the language. Here's the benefit. You're trying to win the war for talent, and you still have the sub-line here, which is the label, Staffing Management's 37th Annual Conference and Exposition, or the benefit, get to the core of business principles, the label, Business Education for HR Professionals. so on and so forth. Measure Up is the human capital benchmarking study for this particular piece was 2011, I believe. Okay, so that's easy to get through and benefit-centric. Substantive and scannable, we have already started to touch on. This is a view book for the Boston University School of Law before they got into the more engaging content program. BU's a top 20 law school. They're famous for the tight-knit community between their teachers, their students, and their alumni. They're famous for the personal approach to their delivery of an education, and all this says to the visitor is institutional. So beyond that, they've warmed it up. They've made it about people. They've used the BU moniker to inform headlines here, but more importantly, they are delivering, just like USA Today started to do 25 years, their substance instead of in text on every page. Big pieces of information are delivered graphically, like where did the class of in this case, 2009 land jobs, or where did the incoming class of 2010 come from geographically, because it's a very international and diverse population. They also use tables and other information to deliver things like the heft of their intellectual heft of their incoming class. So that's what we mean by it isn't just pretty pictures that are decorating the page. The information that's delivered is just lightened up, and I don't mean that in the mood sense, but I mean in the scannability sense, by using graphic information, not to decorate, but to again, let people understand the story better. Okay, here's another example: a law firm brochure. You've seen over and over again the lucite cubes with the aptly named tombstone ad. This is just a firm that's worked with Mintz 11 works with a ton of growth companies, and they've turned the deal cubes into a ramp, suggesting that they're working with high growth companies. Okay, so last one before we just let this go, and not all of this is recent work. I mean, this particular piece is 8 years old, but it's a white paper. It's a research study. And the typical, the MO for these research studies is that normally you would just invert the way this is presented. You would see a page dominated by 80% of the text with very itsy-bitsy graphics sparsely strewn throughout the page just to lighten up all that text. What we're telling you is in this day and age, you have to invert that. It needs to be 80% graphic and 20% text. It's still the hearty information that's being delivered here. It's just not described in a bunch of words. And I think I've beaten that point to a pulp. A great client of ours, Steptoe & Johnson, is doing this more recently with a true information graphic in the SEO sense. This is on their website and is done to promote a major practice area of theirs, the energy industry, which is intensely focused on the shale development in Ohio. And this just recounts the economic benefits, helping to promote the economic benefits of what's going on in that great state to extract some future energy sources. So again, this isn't an SEO presentation, but a lot of what we're doing these days isn't just about the courtesy of helping people get through our content, but it also has great SEO implications as well. Okay, and then marching through the story-based and conversational. This is a site for with video in the middle of it for a great plaintiffs firm, one of the top 5 in really the world. It is an information-rich site. They really know a lot about their subject matter, and their charge is to inform their clients as much as it is to advocate for their clients. But at the center of this is a video where the lawyers of the firm tell heartfelt stories of why they do what they do. It's based on the concept of justice, and the videos are they're moving. To be blunt about it, they'll bring a tear to your eye. And also importantly, the videos are roughly 30 seconds in length. I know video is a great way to deliver content. It has lots of great SEO and other implications. We're all used to watching lots of TV and shows, so video is a good thing. The problem we're seeing with video is that it is ranging from 3 to 10 minutes, just bore you to tears in execution. So keep it short, keep it emotional, and keep it engaging is our short of it on video. Other aspects of storytelling, we know that your buyers, in terms of engaging content, they tell us this over and over again. It's like, what we want to know about you is who'd you work for, what'd you do, and how did it turn out, which means case studies. So this is a piece done for, a while ago for Weil Gotshal that does a really nice job of demonstrating that they do more than bankruptcy, which they're famous for. But it's interesting as you look through this flip book, here's the volume of words. It's all set up under this rhythm of who, what, when, where, and then, ultimately you have Weil as the solution. But there's roughly 70 words on this page. It's really a vibrant way of telling the GE commercial finance story, or in this case, the story of a Korean company looking to get past some antitrust and other local hazards in the southeastern part of the United States as they entered this market. And then package creatively. All right, so package creatively is a big, broad term, but what we're going to do is show you some examples in across a number of media, literally going from the treetops of kind of advertising down to the grassroots of proposals. And we'll just march through these and show you some before and afters and talk about how they link to the principles of engaging content that I already touched on. So here's our great client Navigant. They've been involved brand-wise with an illustrator called Craig Fraser for the better part of 10 years. And this is a before ad. And here's the takeaway for you. Here's a great headline that they did on their own. And all of this content that their professionals want to say in that ad. But guess what? Nobody is reading that. I'm just telling you, we talk to your audience, nobody's reading that. So you got to, and especially in the ad medium, you got to clean that up. Here's the cleaned up version. That's about, by the way, these ads appear in airports. Think about walking by. Are you going to stop? No. You just want a quick takeaway, and if they want more, they go to the website to get a deeper dive into the content. Speaking of websites and mini sites and the like, what we're seeing, thankfully, is a move away from the all-word sites captured here in this fictional site, Trust and Worthy, that tends to be, welcome to us, news about us, and more things about us. And when you get inside, there's our Magna Carta on the left, and there's our invitation to death on the right. And what they're being replaced with, thankfully, are examples like Parker Poe. And I'll just break this down a little bit. What we have in the middle of this page, instead of an office tower or the scales of justice or name your legal industry icon or accounting industry icon or the chess pieces for consulting, what they have is an information graphic. So they grew up in the Carolinas. They grew up in tobacco country, but one of these main ads that rotate through show you that they've now expanded graphically around the world, from Shanghai to Hong Kong to London to Frankfurt and even closer to home, into D.C. and New York from Charlotte. All right. On the edges, illustrated links for a update on where the firm's headed strategically, for an upcoming seminar, for a recent case study, the intergalactic attorney awards, best attorney in the world awards in news. It's short, digestible bites that, again, the scanning reader can sink their attention into, all right? And that carries inside something as dry and utilitarian as a practice and industry list. We've got to the practice and industry section, a firm ad up on top, little ad for an upcoming employment news post, and then fast facts about the firm. So, you know, in the Google model, the paid advertising model, you know, that reverse L around the content, they own this space. Parker Poe does. They've not only used it well, but they've used it, like I said, think color, shape, and image. Right? That's what catches people's eye. They've used those devices to deliver substantive information. Stern Kessler is an IP firm. Their big pitch is pretty simple to understand. They're lawyer scientists. When you get to a page like the attorney search page, you can do it traditionally, A to Z, type in, what have you, but you can also navigate their expertise by the elements table and pick on an element like, not a scientist, ceramics and materials engineering, and up pops one of the practice leaders, and off you go into their bio. So what they've done here is used a fairly boring content page as a branding device, right? Again, with graphic devices that don't decorate but help to really tell the story of their value proposition. Mobile. We gave our mobile presentation last time. For those of you who weren't there or aren't interested, just tune out. But if you are interested, go and download our content on going mobile. The short of it is, you've heard content is king. Well, this world means context is king, and context really means, you know, hold up your phone. It's tiny. There's not a lot of room for your content, so you have the responsibility to rethink your content in that environment. So there's a mobile site viewed on mobile, not made mobile friendly, and there is, you can't even see all the navigation, for instance. And there's an after where everything has been sized and shaped and written and presented for that size media. Okay, you email marketers and other marketers take note of that. It's just that it's a whole new world. Blogs, you know, they're great. Well, they have all kinds of startup problems, but once you get them running, they are fantastic. Our advice to you on blogs is pretty straightforward. This is our own, not to be so self-promotional. We just want to show you the core message. There's so many blogs now. There's so many of the professionals who are using it as a device that it's hard to pay attention to them. Our big two pieces of advice to you are, one, you know, make sure the lead is provocative or fun or otherwise engaging, not dry white label type lead. Number two, use an image in your header, and we get ours from iStock. They cost about $35. It does not break the bank. We spend a little time, you know, picking those out, but you know, go back to what I told you or shared with you about, you know, eye tracking studies. You need an image to help draw people in, not just to break up all the text. So that's blogs. Here's one. And by the way, you don't need to be, you know, big and have a huge marketing staff to do this. This is a great trial law firm with 4 partners who has a very vibrant blog, and you can see the lessons we just talked about, you know, shared in our own blog that they've applied on their own to their really wonderful outreach effort. Okay. Emails, you know, e-marketing, we all get, I don't know how many you get a day, but we all get too many a day. So amid all that clutter, how do you, again, get somebody to pay attention to your emails? I'm not picking on this person. I actually found this, and I read this whole email, but typically if I saw something like this, I would delete it. There's no image in it. It looks like it's going to be hard to read. It hasn't called things out in bullets. What I really liked about this, the reason I'm showing it to you other than as a contrast to the way we would like things normally to be done, it has a great subject. It says, what's in your research budget? What I really loved about this was the first sentence. It says, I should be. And that made me read more. So your copywriters can earn people's attention and should. But beyond that, I think you really need to think content-wise on emails about dressing these things up. Here's a piece done. It was a 10-year anniversary email. If you don't know the Resources Law Group, they're a wonderful organization. Yes, it is a group of lawyers, but it's really a different firm. What they do is they do conservation work, both philanthropic and legal, and consulting work to really save some wonderful pieces of our planet. And their 10-year, their emails, which they only do sparsely, they do about 4 of these a year, have a big, wonderful image. They have the benefit of having these wonderful photographers who they can go to who have photographed these great places that they've worked to conserve. But they've got a little spirit too, drawing from Nemo. Dude, has it really been 10 years? We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary, and you can learn more by clicking into our email. The folks at Navigant have a wonderful case study series that they deliver. Yes, they hope that people see their ads at O'Hare, but more likely, they're just as apt to see them in their email boxes. This is a case study that's formatted for email, still using Craig Fraser illustrations. It tells the story of the valuation challenge for the Muhammad Ali estate. And it does it, as you can see here, in about, I guess that's probably about 45, 50 words. Okay? Lastly, on emails, some of them don't even need the text. I mean, this one has it. This is a merger email for a great firm in Canada, Macmillan. They combined last year with another great Canadian firm called Lang Michener. What they've done here in the image is suggest, okay, here are our leaders coming together, and we've got all of Canada covered. I don't need to read the rest of it to figure that out, although if I do want to read it, they've helped people scan their way through with nice devices like bullets, color headlines, and or bold, or whatever graphic device is in your toolbox. Packaged events, and you all do these probably weekly, and you know what it means. It's like this. It's the seminar or the symposium, or name that tune. This is a firm called Hollingsworth, also in D.C., a litigation boutique that it's not all of their work, but most of their work is, or a big chunk of their work is in the product liability world. They've now run for 24 straight years. They're just putting on their most recent annual seminar on toxic torts and pharmaceutical litigation device. They talk about engaging content, they spend as much time and energy on the packaging of their program every year as they do on the actual content that they deliver in the 2-day seminar. So in this case, they've come up, and they're very involved in this on their own. They've come up with a concept, suit up, the battle's on, know your adversary, using the old Knight's image here. They carry that all the way through, their invites, and it moves consistently through. This is the 3-ring binder up on top with all the the fixins and trimmings that go into that binder, and they put it up on their website, and they link it to Faced In and connect it to Facebook and do all those wonderful things. But our core takeaway, and they've been very successful at this, is the upfront thinking creatively and packaging to make sure that when they send this stuff out, their audience is going to straighten up and lean in and take notice. Okay? And one more piece of advice just on content as it particularly pertains to, packaged events. You all received an invitation like this, and we're glad it worked. It wasn't for going mobile. I should have put up our engaging content invitation, but there is a science to this. You should have, no more than 3 sentences, distill it down to what this program's going to be about, who should attend, and bulleted in 5 or 6 bullets what you're going to learn. That's a courtesy. And of course you need, when's it going to be and how am I going to register? But that's about the length of a good email, especially when it invites people into a thought leadership program like this one. White papers, alerts, and newsletters. So this is typical. And by the way, this again could just as easily be a proposal or name that marketing technique, right? But this is for the International Trademark Association. This is their bulletin. This isn't old, by the way. This is 2010, I believe, that they published this. And just look at it yourself and say, do you want to read that thing? Forget about branding, but just does it, we use the phrase, it defeats the potential reader. And it's a good phrase, because as I look at it, it's like, I really don't want to spend time with that right now, maybe later, right? So the obligation, graphic designers, we think our job is to make things look pretty. It really isn't. It's to make things inviting, to make it easy for people to get from one place to the other. So this is the redone bulletin. It's still substantive. It's still weighty, but it is more like a magazine than it is my kid's book report. And, it honors all the principles we've already touched on in the earlier examples. Okay? Brochures and collateral. Some of you who have been in this space will get a kick out of this example because it's real. And by the way, brochures and collateral are still viable. I know all of you want to do everything on your websites, but it's amazing to us how many rave reviews clients receive when they actually send something printed in this day and age, because so few of us get anything printed. But to take you back, this is one of the first ever law firm brochures. You could say the same thing for accounting or consulting. They were books. This was literally bound. You can see on the margin it was bound, and it was written like a book. Go back to our example, with one of the philosophers there in front of his scroll. This is just like that. And what's happened is that, of course, brochures have got electronic. Unfortunately, they haven't all got shorter and more engaging or more graphic in the sense of delivering the content the way we've talked about already. So this is an example of a modern-day brochure. The firm is Dixon Hughes. They're a southeastern accounting firm. They compete against the big four. Their message is that you get the credentials and the service style with us. This is their dealer services practice area. I'm showing this to you for 2 reasons. All of the things we already talked about. When you get inside, you get a sense of where they work. You get a sense by the numbers, like in the first few pages of Sports Illustrated, which I read, devoutly. It's by the numbers what's happened in the world of sports. This is what's happening in the world of dealerships. You get a client testimonial, a little intro into why we do what we do, and the lion's share of the space on this page is dedicated to client issues. What keeps them up at night? It's a table, right? It isn't 3 crammed columns of text. I can kind of scan my way through it. And the back of the piece is another information graphic talking about the things this firm does, assurance, tax, risk, and other services. Other than the scannable nature and the engaging nature of something like this, my other takeaway for you is this is 4 pages, and that's plenty. We do see clients still doing 8, 12, 16. They go in multiple 20-page brochures. But you should be able, even for a big, substantial practice area like this is one of their leading practices, you should be able to tell your story in 4 pages. Because that's the amount of time your buyers want to spend with it. All right? Lastly, before we get into some questions here, I just wanted to take a minute on proposals. And most of us spend, in marketing of professional service firms, we proposals are the holy grail. It's the real opportunity. They tend to be, they run to 50, 60, 100 pages in length. They are all text. They tend to violate all the principles we just talked about. So all of the things we just talked about, we want to see applied to your proposals. They need to tell good stories. They need to be scannable. They need to have, timely information and pertinent information, all those good things, right? But you also have an opportunity with proposals to really think outside of the container. I'm going to give you one example now that is helplessly out of date. It comes, this is about 12 years old now, but it's still my favorite proposal of all time that I had the pleasure of being involved in. So this was the actual delivery of a proposal to the Samuel Adams Boston Beer Company, and hopefully you'll recognize this. This is the Sam Adams packaging. If you look closely at it, the packaging has been redone. Okay, so the 6-pack. Sam Adams himself has been given a partner there. I worked at the firm Anderson before it went out of business, the accounting firm. So he's got through the powers of Photoshop, he's been given a sibling, a twin, who's got his green, not eye shade, but his green vest on and his pencils in his pocket instead of the beer in his hand. And literally packaged up a whole case of these, 24 of these. Inside this box, things were made like, openers, and if you can imagine a coaster, there were 12 coasters made, each with a picture of the team member who was on the proposal team. But within this bottle, here's the real story for you. Within this bottle, you can just barely make out a piece of paper in here. There's a B that says business idea on it. The substance team, not the marketing team on this, sat in a room for a half a day and generated 24 ideas to improve, the Boston Beer Company's business, and literally packaged them up in these empty bottles, sealed them, and went into the proposal meeting with a dolly and wheeled these things into the meeting. So yes, the regular proposal is stuck in the back pocket with, the wire-bound, 80 pages, what have you. But the CEO of Sam Adams, a guy named Jim Cook, who's notoriously foul-mouthed, is sitting stone-faced as everybody is opening these ideas and passing them around, playing poker, and looking very much like he's going to kick everybody out of the room. Finally breaks into a grin, and he's like, I got to tell you all, and I told you he's foul-mouthed, so I'll clean it up. He says, you have a lot of moxie for messing with my packaging, but what it does is tell me 2 things. And he holds up another firm's proposal. And this is all about engaging content, right? He says it tells me 2 things. It tells me, number 1, that you understand my business, which is really all about branding and packaging. And number 2, you cared more about this opportunity than anyone else by going to this effort. So, a home run, by the way, we were hired. and a home run in terms of engaging content. Lots of extra effort, lots of extra time, but just getting outside of the box. So to review here before we get into some interaction here and some questions and answers, the principles are these: relevant, useful, and temporal makes for engaging content, easy to get through and benefit-centric, substantive and scannable, story-based and conversational, like you could tell it at a cocktail party, and then some kind of creative packaging, whether it's someone like the Resources Law Group with an email, or the folks at LB3 with a homepage for their website, or the old Anderson folks in a proposal, somehow really working at it to break through. And having said that, Teresa, I'm going to tip it back to you and let you, feed us some of the questions from the group who've been sitting through my rant here.
Sure, sounds good. If anyone does have any additional questions right now, feel free to chat them to us using the GoToMeeting. We did have a couple questions from our attendees, starting off pretty much looking for buy-in to incorporate some of this in online and social media. Sort of how do you consult on breaking the barrier between your generational differences when you might have between people who want to go through some of this unique type of engaging content, and then you've got your higher ups who kind of are set in their ways.
That's a great question, and so it's basically old school, new school, and I used to do it this way. I remember my dad. I used to walk barefoot through the snow to school, and I used to get up off the couch to change the TV. Here's the best piece of practical advice I can give you is sharing client insights and reactions to a piece. So put it this way: if you have a draft of a brochure and you believe an old school, accounting firm partner or law firm partner or consulting firm managing director has created a piece and that it is a dud, it has too much content, what have you, and it is all text, and you're fighting the battle to make it more new school, the best thing you can do is get that shown in draft form to a to a prospective client. Have him or her agree with you to ship it out to someone they like and trust, and have that person comment on it. And typically they're not going to listen to you, but they will listen to their clients when you're trying to move from old to new school. So some of the older hand marketers know that technique pretty well. I will tell you just one more comment on that question, Teresa, and thank you whoever asked it. We're seeing less and less resistance to this among the the partners, associates, managers, directors, depending upon the segment of the professional services industry. And the reason is that we all in our own lives are used to the new school. So I'll give you an example. So we watch, we watch Wolf Blitzer in the Situation Room on CNN, recount, the elections results for the day, and what he's doing isn't reading the news to us from a teleprompter, although there is a teleprompter there, but he tends to be, or John King, tends to be literally interacting with a video wall, and you can't see what I'm doing with my hands, but like you do with your cell phone, you grab and you expand and you drill in on a particular county to see who was red and who was blue. So what I'm saying is that more of us, even the older people, and I'm now in that demographic, are used to receiving our information in this newer manner. So we're seeing less resistance, but there is still some of the old guard who are stuck in their ways, and the only way you can get them unstuck is let their clients talk them out of it.
Good, that sounds good. We had another question talking about deliverability issues with graphics-heavy emails. So do you also have a text-only version or a version for mobile devices? How do we go about handling content for that?
Great question. The images you choose for email, whether it's email in, delivered to your desktop, or more and more, we're all looking at it on our mobile devices. You can still use images, okay, but they need to be sized. The fancy word is optimized for for the environment. So using mobile as probably the lowest bandwidth environment. You also definitely want to, and I won't go into the technicalities of how, but for other reasons, you want to have a text-only version of, there's disability reasons and the like that you need to have a text-only, for instance, if you're blind, you can't see the image. So there's those type of things to plan for, but it isn't an excuse not to do imagery. You can size imagery to work in any bandwidth environment and default to text. And by the way, if it is only text, like the email I showed you and the one I paid attention to because he had the what I consider to be the great intro. The guy said, "Who's in your research budget?" And it said, "I should be." You can still do great and powerful and engaging text-only communications and content. But if you can squeeze an image in there, more power to you.
All right, that sounds good.
If you really want a technical answer to us, follow up, with any of us, and we'll put you in touch with someone unlike me who can speak tech.
Good. Okay, I've got another question here about where you typically begin from. Do you usually begin with large amounts of text? Do you have clients come in that you just see these overwhelming pages, and then what's the best approach to pull stats and charts and maps together from that content?
That's a great question too, and there's probably a two-part answer. In the best case scenario, like if it was always sunny and 70 degrees like San Diego, the content, the first draft wouldn't be written by somebody. The way it would happen, ideally the way we would like it to happen, is that the writer from the firm or the writer from the marketing team or the writer from the agency goes and interviews the professional or professionals to extract the content that should be put into a draft. And it's interesting, when we're doing that extraction process on our own, we're not only interviewing people and getting us to talk about what they think should be said, but we're saying, what do you put into, we're asking them, like, what do you show when you go to a live presentation? Or what do you show, when you're giving a seminar? Or how would you demonstrate this if you were in front of a jury? And they tend to have the work product. It's like, they have like lists of top clients and charts of major deals, and but they wouldn't think to put those into the draft. So long-winded way of saying, best way to do it is to go in with a blank sheet of paper and not have them give you a draft, and actually have them give you content in other ways if they're going to draft it. And that happens a lot too. It happens in our own work where we just we put it all on a sheet of paper, and then then it's a process of elimination and good editing, just like a good book editor would do. And And a good book editor who's working with you would do a couple things. He'd help you cut, the fat. He'd help you make he or she would help you make those points much more clearly. And they would also help you extract what's going to be in the pull quote. If it's an article, what's going to be the image. The editor at a newspaper that helps to draw people in. So there's two ways to do it. I just rambled, but the best way is to fresh piece of paper and interviewing them and not having them draft something.
Okay, and also kind of going along with that, sort of coming up with ways to produce this content or ways that would help you to produce this content. Should we be using or developing space on our website maybe for what you were showing us before with ads? Maybe there are sidebars, things like that that'll help us to dedicate that space to images or short messages. Yeah,
great question.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. Bear with me for 1 second. I'm going to go back to that page because it's illustrative. So this is that Parker Poe law firm in the Carolinas. You should be in site development these days. You should be thinking in advance around. So this is your core narrative, right? It could be a bio, a narrative about someone's biographical experience. It could be a practice area description. It could be history of the firm. It could be industry, telecom industry X. Okay, that's our bread and butter narrative. You should be planning in your programming and in your content gathering around the edges for information like this. Tables, charts, graphics, that are essentially, we call them widgets, it's just a technical term, but they're ads around the edges. The other thing that's happening these days, and I believe I can show it to you quickly, and a lot of you have this going on already and should be applauded for it in your websites. I can't get it real quick, and I beg your pardon. But images that are dropped in line of your narratives that break, that's happened from the. It's happened actually as an outtake from the blog world. Where you could be, 3 scrolls down this page and see another image. So if I'm kind of stumbling here, but if you understand me, it isn't only the L that you should be thinking about in terms of using imagery. And it isn't decorative imagery, it's imagery that helps you tell your story.
Right, and I think the last, one of the last questions here was sort of on that same imagery, but having some issues with using stock photography. And I think, some clients don't like to use stock photography, and I think that's a message we send as well. But where is it appropriate or not to use, and sort of giving your thoughts on that.
Well, that's a big question. Ideally, we all have lots of money, we got great agencies we're working with, or we have a great in-house creative team. From a brand perspective, ideally, what we'd like to do is create an image style for our firm that's carried out through everything we do that is unique, that's ours. So in Parker Poe's case, it's, underlying these are some stock, but the work that's been done to them, and in some cases they're handmade, makes them non-stocky, if you know what I mean. So, that's the ideal. There's other ways to get to your own image style, like in the case of someone like, Macmillan, which I just showed briefly. It's a whole brand story in and of itself, but, they've made there are stock images underlying this, but the applying the color to the image, in this case, they're red-orange, makes them uniquely theirs. So ideally, you will have an image style that is your firm's. However, you are going to need stock photography it's just part of life, right? So our advice is it doesn't need to be expensive. Again, this one you're looking at here, you may hate it, you may like it. What we wanted it to do was earn your attention. And it was for our blog post, about the first impression a website makes. It cost $35, and with a little effort, you'll notice it isn't a picture of the home screen of a website. We wanted to say, something a little bit more interesting, and we did, we think. So you follow me? If you gotta use stock, use it. Try to use it innovatively, and that doesn't mean expensive.
I think that's a great point, Joe. I think it's tough to make sure that all of the content on your site is engaging, and I do think that by using images where you can, even if they are stock, I think overall it is the right tactic to do.
Yeah, and more often in the professions, what we're seeing more of here is and we absolutely applaud it, the use of great people photography. Your people, it's a people business. I know people come and go, but guess what? It's easy with today's content management systems. If Joe in the upper left-hand corner here moves away, to replace him with Jane. And in our own world, we do a lot of this photography. We think we do it really well. We think it's just an indicator of what the firms are up to. Our couple of photographers are on the road now constantly at an office near you, taking great shots like these. So what that means is more firms like the ones on the phone with us are doing, instead of a picture of their building, they're showing groups or individual people, which is a good thing.
Great. Good
alternative to stock.
Good. So we've got, I think, probably one more question here. This is a great question. How do you get attorneys you work with to let their practice area be described in only 35 words and ends with weapons or drugs?
Say the end of the question. I heard the first part. How do you get attorneys to describe a practice in 35 words?
And they said weapons or drugs. Just kidding.
Oh, using weapons or drugging them. Well, we believe in both of those techniques. I wish I had a good example here to go to. I tell you, it's a fight. And I know what I want to do. I want to go back up to this example. Look, we'll just pop on it. Just bear with me. This is more than 35 words. This is, I can't tell you. I count on my practice I would tell you that's probably closer to 200. And so when you're in a situation like that, and you're going to have situations like that, what you need to do are the other techniques we talked about. You bold headlines. You really make a benefit headline. You make if someone wants to read only the first paragraph, make sure you've said it well in the first paragraph. If you're going to go on, you subdivide it for them. A lot of, we learn these lessons from our clients too. It's not like we know it all. Bulleting text is great. Subheads are great. Pull quotes are great. Inserting, you can't go further down this page, but in a little bit further down the page, they've inserted a table here with, what the case was and what the result was. So that's not 35 words. That's a couple hundred words, but they've made it scannable and courteous. So don't, you can try drugging them and or shooting them, but sometimes you just got to play with them, and it's a good way to do it. But it's interesting. Teresa, and to the person who asked the question, go to IBM Consulting online. You know, they're a big business. They're pretty successful, right? You won't get a practice description, their version of it, that's long and winding. Go to McKinsey. Go and look up SEO consulting. See how they do it. Show your partners that. Those are two respected brands. All right? It's amazing what reputable professional service companies are doing in this in this new school world. It's also amazing what some others aren't doing well.
Good. All right. I think that pretty much wraps up our questions unless anyone wants to chat anything last minute here.
Good. Well, we'll thank you for attending. First of all, you got this. There's more of these to come. We will, Teresa. I mean, maybe you're going to mention it. We are going to. Everyone that signed up, we're going to send you an email. Hopefully, it'll be engaging with a link to this content, and you can download it or listen to it, or ignore it. And stay tuned for more of these. We love putting them on. We hope you enjoy them. And if you have any ideas for the topics for us to talk about, shoot us an email. We'll promise to pay attention to it.
For sure. That's the wrap up. Thanks, everybody.